Welcome back. Today I want to talk about creating gradients inside of Photoshop. And this is not a real hard thing to do. It just takes a little patience, a little bit of time. And the keyboard shortcut for our gradient tool is G. So when we tap the G key, that gives us our little gradient icon over here. And once we have that G key, if we right click inside our document, all of our gradients that we have created or come shipped with Photoshop gets displayed in this handy little box. And all we have to do is double click on it to grab it and then come out here into Photoshop and pull the gradient, or what I call pulling the gradient. And when you have the gradient tool selected, up here in the control bar, we have several ways to modify that gradient. We have a linear pull. If I click on this second one, we will get a radial gradient. In other words, everything kind of generates from a center from where you pull. The next one over is called an angle gradient. So you can kind of pull and see what that does. We then have a reflected gradient. So it's going to reflect. So we kind of see here's a gradient, linear gradient from that light blue to dark, and then it mirrors it or reflects it and goes from light blue to dark. And the cool thing with gradient tools, if we hold down Shift, I can't move it. I mean, I can up on 45-degree angles, but it keeps it nice in a straight line. So if we wanted something to be exactly vertical or exactly horizontal, we want to hold down that Shift key. That way we can't get it skewed at an angle, but we can draw it straight horizontal, or if we drag left to right, straight vertical. Okay? And then the next one over here is called our diamond gradient. So there's certain applications for the different gradient pulls, what I call pulling a gradient. We also have over up here reverse. So now I'm pulling dark to light. And if I uncheck that reverse, I will pull from light to dark, which is originally what I had, how I had created that gradient. Opacity, that's kind of, we kind of know what opacity does. And I can probably show this a little bit better. If I have a transparent layer underneath my gradient, I'll create a new layer. We will set our opacity at 50% and click and drag. And now you see that we're really filling with 50% of that light and 50% of that dark. And if we drag that up, we'll fill it in more completely. And we have different blending modes that we can apply to the gradient, which will allow that gradient to interact a little bit differently with images underneath the gradient. All right. So that is the basics of our gradient tool. We can also get up here and see all of our saved gradients. We can pull this window bigger, smaller. And we can also save these gradients as libraries. So if you ever want to, if you have a set of gradients that you want to save and you want to give it a specific name, you can do that. And we can load gradients after we have created them and save them as libraries. So in the next video, I'll actually show you how to create a gradient. Thanks for watching.